Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is Naomi Tiry Salgado. I think we're up to episode 10 in our documentary, not a documentary, but a documentation of the process of getting ready for the FIPS exhibit. We're doing the theme Urban Life, and right now we're at the stage of painting our color studies from the one trip I made. I need to make another trip soon, but we're at the stage of color studies. We're going to be working on this one today. We composed this painting together. We cut off this. We decided to use a golden rectangle ratio. In the last video, we talked about what is the golden ratio and how are we experimenting with it, why are we using it. So this was composed like that with tape and then sketched out here in our little sketchbook. And now I have taped off this canvas so that it is a golden rectangle canvas. I'll just show it to you that it truly is golden rectangle. Here, the calipers, I've got them set, the long end is set for the long side. Now let's make sure the short side matches up. It does. I'll just show you on the small one. If we match up the long end, let's see here. That matches. Now this short end should match. See? So these are equivalent rectangles, and we will get going now. Thanks. So I just want to share with you a trick for making colors relate. I don't know if you remember, but I said that there's 3 reds here that I want to connect. This jacket being primary, stop sign being secondary, and the building being third. I like to include 3 different instances of the same color when I'm working in a painting. And so here are some colors I mixed up. 3 different reds, this being primary, secondary, third, tertiary. And yet I want them all to relate. So what I like to do is mix just a tiny bit of each other into each other so that there's an internal relation, even though on the outside they look different. But these 3, I feel like they do relate because they have just a tiny bit of each other in them. Hello, sorry about that. I thought I was doing time lapse, and I was doing a time lapse of behind the camera rather than this. So I'm just going to talk you through what I've done so far because you weren't able to see it. This is the lady's head here. Her head is right at the golden ratio point, so I noted that. Then I put the building 1 golden ratio from the side here. Then this is the upper golden ratio of right above there, but now this is the secondary one. A golden ratio from here to here is right there, and actually it's a little. That is just the quick block in just to tell my brain where to put the next layer of color. So now I'll turn you on time lapse. Sorry about that. Where the painting is at. I had to set it aside at when it reached this stage because life just got busy. But and so unfortunately this painting completely dried. It's completely dry everywhere. So no, this is no longer an alla prima painting, which means all at once, wet into wet paint. That is good and bad. So at this point, I can paint anything I want, and if I make a mistake, I can just wipe it off and start again. But any reflections won't mush into the other paint layers around it. So, and I do have to paint quite a few reflections yet, so that part's going to be tricky. But the people I can just keep wiping off till I get it right. So luckily though, my paint has stayed wet. I'll show you my trick of how to keep paint wet for a long time. So this is my palette, and remember those colors of red that I was saying I mixed up so they relate? Well, here they are on my palette, and I've kept them wet. They're still good to go. And my secret is this little paper towel. I have soaked it with clove oil, pure essential oil, clove oil. I get this one from Aluka. It doesn't matter where you get it. The thing about clove oil and why it works so well is that it is a super antioxidant. It removes the oxygen from around its location. And how does that affect oil paint? Well, oil paint doesn't actually dry. It cures using oxygen as it's an oxidation reaction is how oil paint cures. So in order for it to cure, it needs oxygen. And so you can control the speed of this reaction by taking away or giving oxygen to your painting. Another way you can control the speed of a painting, of how fast it dries, is temperature, because warmth speeds up any chemical reaction and cold slows down any chemical reaction. So I also have a freezer in my studio, well, close to my studio. It's the family freezer. But at any given point in time, there's probably stuff in here that, yes, a paintbrush with oil paint on it. And I think I have some palettes in here. Nope, today it's just pizza. But anyway, I can put a whole painting in there, or a palette, or anything I want, and it will stay wet. Pretty much. There's a few pigments that will dry even if they're in the freezer, and those pigments are Prussian blue and sometimes burnt sienna. Those natural pigments dry very, very fast, no matter what. Even with clove oil, sometimes burnt sienna will stay wet even with clove oil. Prussian blue is just gonna dry no matter what. This is important to note. You never want your clove oil to get actually in the paint. Otherwise, the paint will never dry. You just want it in a little cotton ball or paper towel or something near the paint. That's all it needs. So because it's been so long since I've worked on this painting and it is now dry, I want to do an oiling out on here. I'm just going to go all over it with this medium. It's Gamsol and oil, either Stand Oil or linseed oil. Stand Oil is a thicker version of linseed oil, and I'm just going to go all over this with that mixture. Heavy on the Gamsol. Well, no, it's going to have to be heavier on the oil because there's already oil on here. And this is the top coat layer. But that's just going to help with better adhesion, a more uniform gloss, and hopefully what I'm really hoping for is that it will help with the reflections merging into the painting a little better. So let's see how it goes. A little close up. There's the reference photo. It's pretty close. Not that it needs to be.